It's Tuesday night, and you know what that means. Hello, I'm Luke Michael Howard, clinical hypnotist and owner of Lukenosis Hypnosis, with tonight's Facebook Live entitled Stop Counting Your Fucking Sober Days. It's sabotaging you. It's killing you. So I'm going to go into that controversial stance a little bit later on and why I say that. If you're just joining us, say hi. Hey Amanda, how are you? If you just joined us, say hi in the little comments box below. I'm just going to wait for a few more people to come on before I deliver this little discourse for you. I'm doing good, Amanda. Today was a good day. How's your day been? I'm having a good hair day today as well. I'm not wearing the cap. You see, I got the old coif all the way up today, so it's a good hair day. So it's a good day for me today. We've got to do what we can in these times of lockdown. The Hypno Pixie is here. Hello, Hypno Pixie. So, here it is. I know it's going to be a bit controversial, this one tonight, and I don't deliberately say what I'm about to say to be controversial, to be honest with you. It's because I've lived through counting certain numbers of certain days that I did certain things. Could I be more cryptic? That I saw as a streak, as a winning streak. And I would count the amount of days that I did something or didn't do something, and I thought it was really positive. It's been X amount of days it's been X amount of days. I'll give you one that I can give you. I had 5 years of every day for 5 years. I exercised, I trained. Now, not every day was an amazing workout, not at all. Some days were, some days weren't. Some days were yoga, some days was a run, some days was mixed martial arts, some days was lifting weights. Not every day was an amazing performance for me, but for at least 5 years I went every day, even my birthday, even Christmas, even when I was crisscrossing this beautiful world of ours and I had no time, or time where I had zero sleep and had a shitload of stuff to do, but I had 5 years of exercising every day, and I was very proud of that streak. I called it a streak, right? There's another streak that I had where I used to do something that was very, very difficult for most people to be able to do, and I did it for about 1,500 days in a row. I thought it was very positive. Oh, this is an amazing streak. It's an amazing streak. I've done so well. Pat on the back. Rubel has joined us. Hello, Rubel. If you just joined us, say hi in the comments below. Introduce yourself. When I go on these forums, these Facebook groups, people are putting their days in. And I understand they think it's coming from a positive place. But they only think that because they've been brainwashed by a lot of these groups. Not your fault if you've done that. I used to do it. I used to count the days. So I'll go on these Facebook groups, for AA or NA, what have you, and it will say 130 days clean, 10 days clean. One of these guys is 40 years clean. If you've been going 40 years, you don't need to count it anymore. We can just accept you're clean. Another one, 30 years clean, 24 years clean. And I understand people giving themselves a pat on the back. They've overcome a challenge. I appreciate that. I appreciate you've overcome a challenge. I appreciate probably one of your reasons for that is not to have a gigantic ego and people giving you a pat on the back. Probably for most people put those days is a source of inspiration for other people in the group. Hey, if I've gone 40 years without drinking, without drugging, then you can do it too. I appreciate that's probably where it's coming from on most people. Not all, but for most people. So here's the interesting thing. You know McDonald's? I don't know if they still do it. But there's a joke in here somewhere. But it would be, you go past McDonald's and they'd have the billboard and it would say, we've sold over 1.3 billion hamburgers. It's an old Jerry Seinfeld joke, which says something along the lines of, what are they hoping? When you get to over 1 billion, why do you keep counting? What is the goal here? For the cow just to say, hey, I want to be a hamburger, just take me now, and have the mass suicide of cows so they get maybe made into hamburger. It was something like that. I probably butchered the joke. It was something like that. But the moral is, when you get to a certain number, we don't need to count anymore. McDonald's, all right, we know you're doing well. We know you're doing well. Billions and billions of hamburgers you sold. We know you're doing well, all right? if you've gone 40, 45, 50 years and you haven't drank, you've abstained from your drug of choice, you haven't drugged, you haven't done your coke, your heroin, good job. Why the fuck are you still counting? The only reason you're still counting is there's a part of you inside that isn't healed. There's a part of you that tells you, I'm so proud of going my 40 years, my 45 years, my 50 years. But there's a part of you that still counts because there's a belief, small as it may be, and although you may not have the bravery to face it yet, there's part of those people that still believes they may fall off the wagon and start using again. So something that seemingly is very, very positive, 40 years without using any drugs, 1 week without using the cocaine, the heroin, the alcohol, the cigarettes, the sugar, the sex, the porn, whatever it is, sounds really positive, I get it. But as somebody that used to count the amount of days they were seemingly doing a very positive thing, like with exercise, although it started off very positive, after a while it became an obsession. I made a video on this Facebook Live, which is passion versus obsession. Okay? Passion versus obsession. Passion's beautiful. Passion's that thing that will wake you up in the morning, that will give you ample amount of energy even when you didn't sleep, or you didn't eat, or you didn't drink, or you didn't breathe properly, that you're getting stuff done. Passion's beautiful. We should all find our passion. Obsession is when that passion goes haywire and we're not going towards something anymore, we're going away from something because we don't want to experience the loss right there. Okay? So passion is good, obsession is bad. Mine became an obsession. Sounds positive, doesn't it? I've gone 5 years, every day, Christmas, birthday, when I had no sleep, when I was tired. 5 years, exercised every day. And there were some days when my body was broken down. I probably shouldn't have trained. I should have probably just slept a little bit. But I was so obsessed that if I missed today's training, then that means I'm going to miss tomorrow, then next week, next month, next year. And then what's going to happen? I'm never going to train again. And I'm going to be a big fat bastard. And no one's ever going to love me or respect me anymore. See, it came from a positive place, but the thing that was keeping that streak there and me banging on about it, other than ego, patting myself on the back, was a fear that if I stopped just for one day, I'd revert back to that fear that I used to have of being fat, being overweight, being addicted to sugar and so forth. If you've just joined us, say hi in the comments below. Mark said hi. Hey Mark, how are you? Remember, please do share these videos with people you like, people you know that will benefit from these, or certain groups that you may be on that you think benefit from them. There was another thing that, I don't want to go too much into it, but another thing that I did, don't worry, it was legal. It was something that I did for 1,500 days pretty much in a row, this particular activity. And most people would never be able to do it because it's really confronting social norms and social anxiety. But I followed it every day because I was so fearful. I was so scared that the day that I'd stop doing it would be the day that my social anxiety would kick in. So although it started very positive, I've got this streak of doing this thing, interacting with people every day, 1,500 some odd days. If I stopped for one day, the thing that prevented me from stopping was the belief that if I stopped, even for one day, if I missed one day, I'd foul and I'd be shy and I'd be closed down, I'd be agoraphobic again. So that thing that started very positive ended up putting me in a box. I don't like to be in a box. If you can't already tell, I don't like being in a box. Some people do. I don't. It's not how I work. I think most people deep down want to be respected for the individual they are, not because they've been put in a box by other people who only like you because you fit in that particular box. So that streak that was very positive to me ended up becoming an albatross that was hanging over my head. It was a great fear. And you know what the hardest thing for me to do was? The hardest thing for me to do was not to continue doing this streak, dealing with my social anxiety, or doing this streak so I continued to exercise so I wasn't a fat bastard. The hardest thing for me was to stop counting, stop the streak. Because I really had this belief inside that if I stopped, my whole frigging world was going to implode in of itself. So the hardest thing for me to do was to stop counting. to not be a prisoner to the streak, to not become a victim of that albatross that was over my head. And I realised the greatest fear that I had was to break the streak. Just to break the streak. It was the hardest thing that I could have done, was to break the streak deliberately break the streak. Not missing it because I forgot one day, but deliberately breaking it. I remember the day that I broke it, I was like sitting down, I was waiting for the clock to go past 12 midnight. I was shaking. I was scared because there was this weird belief, as smart as I may or may not come across sometimes, there was this belief that my whole world was going to implode if I didn't do these particular things. And 12:01 a.m. ticks by. Still had 2 arms, 2 hands, 2 eyes, still had my ears, still could breathe, still could speak, still could move, still could have a swig of my drink. Still had thoughts. The world still existed. Everything still existed. It wasn't the end of the world. In fact, it's a bit underwhelming that more bad things didn't happen because I decided not to do the streak, because it was my one fear, was deliberately breaking the streak. Hey Camille, how are you? Hey Lisa, how are you? If you just joined us, say hi in the comments below. Remember to share this video, people or groups on Facebook or what have you that might benefit. And when the world didn't implode, I could breathe. I realised the streak was important. It was important to get me to a certain level, but when it became an obsession and an albatross over my head, it started to put me in a box and I started to become a prisoner of it. And I'm afraid that people who have done remarkably well in overcoming their addictions, be that alcohol, nicotine, heroin, crystal meth, cocaine, sex, porn, digital, social media, that when they start counting the days, after a few days, right, you want a bit of momentum, you want a pat on the back, you want some public acknowledgement. I get it, I have an ego as well, surprise, surprise, I get it, okay? But when you're getting into a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, and you haven't done this thing, why are you obsessing about it? You're obsessing about it because there's something inside that isn't healed. You're obsessing about it because even though you haven't done that drug of choice for 40 some odd years, there's still a part of you that has not dealt with it, has not dealt with, you are not an addict. It was just a bad behaviour you did for a period of time that you got control and you overcame, and you were like the albatross that came from the fire. You didn't die. So my fear is, and I know it's inbred, I'm not blaming you if you do it, or if your friends do it, I'm not necessarily blaming them, because most people haven't actually looked at it and been like, actually, is that positive count in those days? Those chips that I get from AA, a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Hey Jerry, how are you? Jerry's from the US of A. Where in the USA are you, Jerry? You can put downstairs, or downstairs in the comments. Hey Lisa, you're feeling it. It's good, I'm glad you're feeling it. But a lot of these groups, and I think they're well-meaning to begin with, all right? So I'm not shitting all over these groups. I think they're well-meaning to begin with, but like most groups, they start off small, grassroots, and then things take over and they start to lose, for want of a better word, their soul, and they become a bit of something else. Kansas City, Missouri, Jerry Lee Williams says. It's where one of my favourite wrestlers is from, Jerry, Randy Orton. I don't know if you know, he wrestled at WrestleMania. And the legendary Harley Race, one of the toughest men ever in professional wrestling. He passed away, I believe, last year, from Kansas City, Missouri. That's my knowledge on Kansas City, Missouri right there. So yeah, it keeps you trapped. If you keep counting your days after a period of time, I'm not here to tell you anything, by the way. I'm just giving you some experience of someone who overcame certain addictions, helped many, many thousands of people overcome addictions, and has seen models. And I'm in the empowerment business. The empowerment business means is I see you a couple of times, help you empower yourself, then respectfully I never fucking see you again because you're so empowered you don't need to see me again. I'm not in the business of you having to rely on me coming back weekly, bi-weekly for the rest of your life, paying me some kind of money to make you feel better, to make you feel that you can do it. I'm not in that business. I'm in the business of you being empowered so you see me the limited amount of time before you can get on with your life and do better things than having sessions with me. So I believe that counting days after a period of time, I don't know what that period of time is, it's different for different people, but after a year, I'd say if you're still counting days, you're caught up in that old mentality of you're still an addict. You're always going to be an addict. Fuck, if you're 50 years down the line, you're still counting the years and the days, and you're putting it on Facebook, you're still caught up in that identity that you're still an addict. And as long as you're caught up in that identity, even if you never use, you're still a fucking addict in here. There can be someone that quits a drug and it's done. Even though it was so destructive in their life, they quit it and they're done after a week or two, and they don't count the days, but they're done. Their identity is shifted. They're less of an addict, in my book, someone who works with many, many people with many, many addictions for many, many years. That person who quits a couple of weeks and have changed the identity. I am not an addict. I once did behavior that was indicative of being an addict. I no longer do that. I have changed that. I am no longer an addict. I am now a healthy, happy person. Those people are no longer in that prison. They're no longer in that box. And you can get out of that box in a week, in 2 weeks. Some of the hardest drugs out there, like heroin. Okay? And I'm not saying you should come off of heroin cold turkey. I'm not telling you to do that. This all was obviously under the supervision of your doctor, that goes without saying. But I just take for granted that my audience is intelligent and understand that. I'm not telling you to do that. However, when we look at the half-life of heroin, actually not the half-life, but how long it takes the heroin to leave your body, approximately a week for most people, the heroin is gone. The physical addiction, mental addiction might still be there. If you attach to the addict identity, that can be the thing that takes a long time to get rid of. I've got ways of making it a lot quicker, but it can, especially when you go into meetings, it says, my name's Luke and I'm an alcoholic. My name's Luke and I'm a drugaholic. I don't mean to make light of this, folks, but, when was the last time you used? 40 years ago. They're staying trapped. In this addict mentality, and it fucking breaks my heart. It's a form of mass hypnosis. And I know that this video is going to get some hate. Know that. And I know this video is going to get some trolls. I understand that. I'm not asking you to accept my version of the world. But as someone that has worked with many, many addicts, or people that used to identify as addicts, everything from sugar to heroin to crystal meth to sex to digital addiction and everything in between. The people that were successful that I worked with, the people who got it, were the people that got rid of that identity. Yes, I used to do a behaviour that was addicting. I used to be 12 at some point. That's true. I did used to be 12 at some point. You probably were 12 at some point too. But I'm no longer 12. I'm now 42. So I don't discount I was 12. The former addict doesn't discount that they used to use. But they're no longer 12. They're no longer an addict. They outgrow it. And the people that shifted the identity, something I used to do. I used to like Kiss, the band Kiss. It's true. Used to like him. Not anymore. But that's true. That was true. I used to be a Kiss fan. It's true. John, not his real name, used to be addicted to cocaine. He is now no longer addicted to cocaine. Like, I'm no longer a fan of Kiss. I break this down very, very simply like that. Not to discount people's feelings or what they're going through. But sometimes we must boil it down. The hardest thing for most people that have been using the substance, and I'm just going to use the word addict for want of a better word. I don't really believe anyone's addicted. And everyone's addicted at the same time. I know it's a bit of an oxymoron, meaning we've all got our own addictions, right? Some, but not all addictions are created the same, that I've said before. Like being addicted to biting your nails perhaps isn't going to cost you your home, your wife, your car and your kid and your job, like being addicted to crystal meth might, okay? Not all addictions are created the same. And at the same time, the way I view, in neurolinguistics, the way I view addiction is you are empowered, and it's just a behaviour. It's a behaviour that you're doing. You don't realise you're doing consciously. You think it's doing you, but you are doing it. Even though you feel you've got no control, you do. But I get that a lot of people, when they're in the darkness of their addiction, don't feel that they have control. I get it. But you are doing it. It's just a bad behaviour that you don't feel you've got any control. It's a bad behaviour that could kill you. Granted, depending on the drug and whatever, it could kill you. It could be very, very dangerous. But it's just a habit that's gone haywire, that has the potentiality to be very dangerous and cost you your life. But at the end of the day, it's still a habit. Underneath it, it's still a habit. Yeah, there's behaviours, beliefs. I am always an addict. Probably some sadness, lack of connection in your life, anxiety that are underneath it. That's all there. But once that's all cleared up, that's just holding up a habit you're doing. A habit that some people call an addiction. That you don't feel you've got any control over. You do. I get that most people don't feel that they do. But they do. Everyone does. But once those things are cleared up underneath and the identity has changed, the identity meaning I used to use coke, I used to drink, I used to use crystal meth, I used to do that, not discounting it, don't want to do it again, ain't gonna do it again, it is done. I used to be 12, I'm not anymore. I used to be a fan of Kiss, I'm not anymore. It goes in the same pile. But you don't stand up 40 years later, I'm still an addict, because it identifies you to be in that and you can never break free. So going back to something like heroin, for most people, heroin has left the body after the last time of using within a week. Everyone, it's gone within 2 weeks, the physical addiction. Okay, if you believe in the physical addiction, there's some people and some scientists say that you're not even physically addicted. I'm not here to argue that point tonight. However, the identity, I am an addict, once an addict, always an addict, which is hammered in through groups that I'm sure initially were well-meaning, okay, like AA or NA. Oh, I'm an addict, my name's Luke, I'm an addict. How long have you been an addict? Or when was it the last time you used? 50 years ago. You used to do something, it was destructive, you learnt your lesson, you overcame it, you move on. Doesn't mean you can't inspire other people if you choose to help them change. If you know people, you want to help people change, by all means, beautiful thing to go out there and inspire other people. Hey, I used to do that thing that you're doing, and you can come off of it. You can be clean and have an amazing life. I can help you if you wish. You should do that. If you're so inclined to do that, it's a beautiful thing to do. It's a beautiful. But when you're counting the fucking days, you're telling a part of your unconscious mind. You even know it's been 50 years and my math's shit, don't know how many days that is, you could do it later on. But you know what? I could fall off that wagon at any moment. And that little belief, no matter how small it is, that little belief in there means you're not healed. And essentially because you're identifying with that identity of being an addict, you're more fucked than the person who quit 2 weeks ago and has changed the identity. Used to be an addict, used to like Kiss, used to be 12. It's all true. Don't do that anymore. My musical taste has changed. I've gotten older than 12, I'm 42. No, I don't look it. Look at my beautiful hair today. Look at that. A lot of volume in that today. I used to be an addict. I don't do it anymore. It's all gone. Okay? So, yeah, that's it, guys. If you've got any questions, please do ask them in the question box below. I'll be here for a few minutes. I know some people put some questions up there. Let me scroll down, if I may. You may get a close-up of my face right now. But if you've got any questions... Oh, there he is. Yeah, feel free to put them below. Feel free to pass this video on to anyone. And like I say, I know some people are going to get upset. And they're going to get upset because they're going to take certain amounts of this out of context. They're going to victimise themselves. And be like, oh no, I'm an addict. I could never, I'm always going to be an addict. What they're saying is that's part of my identity. It's been hammered into me through AA, NA or whatever group they've used to try and get out, and they're still stuck. They're still a prisoner, which is really sad. My heart goes out to those folks. But unless you've got any question, if you've got any questions, please put in the comments below. Otherwise, oh yeah, just before I go, this week and for another week, if you want to have a screening call with me is an opportunity where you and I chat over the telephone or Facebook Messenger audio. If you want help, if you do need help, a little bit of help getting off of your addiction or anything, any problem that you've got, but I do specialise in addiction and anxiety. and we can speak for free, and I can give you some tips, and if we decide to work together after that, that's another conversation. But that's something you're interested in. It usually costs $15 for the screening consultation, but for next week or so it's going to be free. If you're interested, I'll put the link below this video, and just click on fill out the quick questionnaire, and we can get on the phone or the messenger audio and have a chat about it. Like I said, it's usually $15. It's going to be free for the next week or so. So just follow the link below. But unless you've got any questions, yeah, have a great rest of your evening. Always believe.